Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovias inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh, thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Are we still working on the Copiers Plus, like, big banner of all the things we've got coming up over the next few weeks in terms of events?
Yeah, as soon as I figure out how to organize things on my computer,
got it.
I know how to print them. It's getting those ideas onto the paper in that 11 by 18 format, and then
and apparently you're out of you're out of credits for your flyer program.
I've signed up for like every free my AI. It's what I type in is free AI flyer, and then go from there.
Okay, I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah,
I guess
you inspired me. You had the cats.
Well, at some point. Well, that's Adobe stock.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you're like speaking a different language.
Well, but we pay for that, so that's why I get
sure. But yet we still need credits. It's almost like they're
I know
they're gaming us like Fortnite.
That's exactly what it is. They're going to give me a loot box of AI generated images. What am I going to get today? Am I going to get the skin that I need? I have no idea. It looks like Florida State needs a loot box to get out of the ACC right now. You know, they open it up and are like, wow, look at this private equity money. We can leave now, but where are they going to go? And we got SEC Media Days going on, and I was waiting. The Big 12 is a different beast, right? Brett Yormark's out there like the carnival barker, disrupting everything, man. You know, he's taking his cues from Silicon Valley, where he understands that he could just say some wild shit and people will just run with it, and here we go. The SEC Media Days are going to be a little bit different because the SEC comes from a position of power. The Big 10 Media Days, which are next week, they come from a position of power. They don't need to bring anybody on. So I was curious how the alignment talk was going to come out. And Greg Sankey started the week by saying, y'all, I ain't playing. We're not engaged. We're good. I'm not focused on any of that stuff. We're set at 16. We are good. Brett McMurphy of the Action Network, longtime college football reporter, who's very plugged in when it comes to college realignment stuff. I mean, the guy was ahead of the curve with all the Big East sourcing he had back in the day. We know where that information was coming from. So McMurphy yesterday has this story. Florida State likely will not have a landing spot in the Big 10 or SEC if it's successful in leaving the ACC and the ACC stays intact, sources told Action Network. Now, I feel like this sentence has a lot of things to unpack, right?
Okay.
So the first one is if they're successful in leaving. Okay, well, we've discussed that.
There's various degrees of success, but I think most of us at this point understand that Florida State's motivated to be away from the ACC.
They don't want to be in the ACC.
Who knows where they end up, but they don't want to be there anymore.
Bingo.
Okay, I agree with that.
That's their single motivation, and I can see it happening, but that's the second part. Where do they go? And this is the part that I found fascinating. The ACC stays intact. I'm going to read between the lines. Let's run that through the OG fans later. Beep, bop, boop, beep, beep. Hold on. Do I have the right?
This means, that's my meeting voice.
Yeah, different.
Large robot.
Yeah.
Large robot. Here we go. This means that the SEC and the Big 10 don't want a lawsuit. They don't want any tampering. They want none of this. If the ACC no longer exists, well, who's going to sue them?
There's your fans later, right?
Got it.
That's what that's about. Of course, we have 2027 on the horizon and the opt-in for ESPN and a lot of stuff, but I just want to set that on the table because that kind of factors into what the ACC might be going forward.
We have been loud critics of Jim Phillips and the ACC.
Yes,
for the moves that they've made.
Yes, we have.
This clause right there in his sentence suggests that it was a smart move then to add the 3 teams that they did, because the league, no matter the quality of the league, it would technically still stay intact.
The other sentence that I found fascinating from Brett McMurphy was, there are multiple concerns about adding Florida State, sources said. Those reasons include the fact that it doesn't make financial sense for either league, i.e., why are we diluting what we're giving out now for another mouth to feed?
I don't think it makes sense for the SEC. I agree. They're already in those states. They're already in those markets. I disagree with the Big 10. I do think it would make sense for them to add those schools. I'll tell you why in a second.
I don't agree with you on that one, but we'll get into it in a second. There's, quote, there's no appetite for expansion, and FSU, quote, is not a good partner, end quote. That part, the not a good partner, tracks with something an insider told me last December. Okay. And Basically, this person was challenging me.
This isn't when John Swofford told us Florida State's always mad at people. Don't worry about that.
No,
They've been mad. They'll be mad at me forever. They're mad at you forever. Don't worry about
John
that.
Swofford told us that. Our friend Holden Thorpe told the story of like, yeah, John Swofford had to go down to Tallahassee and make Florida State feel special again. Like that's a known quantity.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a known quantity with Florida State. They're just pains in the ass. And this insider told me
this wasn't that offhand comment. Okay.
This is not Swofford.
Just making sure.
This is not Holden Thorpe. This is somebody else that I'm not going to name.
Because I did see Swofford last year at Sedgefield, and I was like, man, Florida State people are pissed at me. He's like, you join the club, man. He's like, it's fine. He's like, they're always mad. They stay mad. Okay.
That's just your MO, man.
Yeah, he's like,
that's just what it is.
That's their default.
No. This is somebody
resting
who
Florida State face
essentially was challenging the show to be like, hey, you should be asking the questions with all this stuff about the ACC and how terrible it is and all this other stuff. Somebody should ask Florida State, hey, what have you done to help better the league? You have been essentially saying you've been invited to various committees. You're a non-participant. It's the classic, you're in the meeting and everybody has an opportunity to voice their concerns or, hey, what are your suggestions to make the work culture better? And you're just back in the corner looking at your phone the entire time while the meeting's going on. We all know that person. All right. So that's Florida State. And then when the meeting's over, they go and they complain about, oh, man.
Well, then talk about it in the meeting. That's the forum.
They're not going to listen to me. I mean, that's how it's going to work. Okay. That's Florida State right now. But to your point about the Big Ten, I think you and I disagree. We're in agreement on the SEC.
Yeah.
The Big Ten, we do not agree, but I'm curious as to why you think the Big Ten is interested in Florida State other than, hey, it's Florida, maybe. I just don't know what Florida State's brand adds to the Big Ten that North Carolina would add to the Big Ten, given the choice.
Well, two different reasons.
Okay.
Let's start with Florida State.
Okay.
I think Florida State and Clemson I think there's two plays with those two schools in particular. They add football brands. They add football power. Those are SEC brands in the ACC. Mm-hmm. You're talking 80,000 seat stadiums. You're talking all the following. They absolutely fit in.
Yeah, TV ratings.
When you say Big Ten in those stadiums, you're talking about they fit. Mm-hmm. Now, you did say Florida. The geography matters. We're not that far removed from James Franklin getting to Penn State and literally trying to hold like all of his practices in the state of Georgia because he was like, no, really.
Well, Jim Harbaugh, remember the
same thing.
He had the whole circus tour, man. It pissed people off.
Same thing. Like, no, really. It's not super cold in Michigan or Pennsylvania in the winter. No, really. We have black people in Michigan and Pennsylvania. No, I promise. We don't have, look, we could do this. We can hold hands.
Yeah.
Make it work. Yeah. So I think there is a brand appeal there, and they're not in those markets. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think that would help them recruiting wise. Just as the SEC, when they went into Texas A&M originally, Texas A&M was like, oh yeah, we're getting away from Texas. The SEC was like, ha, joke's on you. Yeah. We want to play in Texas because I don't care what NIL says. Mom still matters.
Yeah.
And being able to say to mom, hey, we're coming down, we're playing here every other year, you're gonna get a chance to see us play. Mm-hmm. That matters. It still does. So I think that would help them. And the one thing the Big Ten has done that they've already shown that they're a step ahead of everybody else, because this is why they beat the ACC at their game last year. Mm-hmm. They were the first one to offer the cut rate.
Aha, which gets us back to Florida State. This is where you and I will get back into agreement. If the SEC decides, hey, look, Florida State, you want in, cool, but you're going to take a discounted rate the same way that Washington and Oregon took a discounted rate to join the Big Ten.
So the SEC has no one at a discounted rate.
No.
So
Texas
the ACC
and Oklahoma
does,
are coming in full.
The ACC does, the Big Ten does.
The ACC has an entire school that's not paying a dime for 6 years or whatever it is in SMU.
Well, Stanford and Cal are coming in at
a discounted
like
rate.
70% or whatever it is, 30%.
Okay, so the Big Ten goes to Florida State and Clemson. Hey, cool, you can join our league, but you're going to have to do the same deal.
Oregon, yeah, I think they take it.
Florida State's not doing that. Well, they're too damn prideful and they care way too much about money to be doing
to have the supplementary income from the equity and to get away from and to have some scheduling stability. I think that's what it comes down to. Like we've talked about with Florida State, like they can't pull a UConn. People are not going to be interested in playing them.
That's why I think you saddle up to the Big 12, who would be willing to do some sort of scheduling arrangement with you. I mean, I was listening to the Cover 3 podcast, and Bud Elliott was talking about travel. And the way he's like, why is everybody so worked up about travel? Have you ever been to Tallahassee? I know you have.
It's impossible to get to.
Exactly. So it's like, he's like, everything's a flight.
Other than Atlanta, it's impossible to get to.
Everything's a flight.
My least favorite trip.
That was Bud's point. So he's like, so what are we talking about here? Everything's a flight. So you go to the Big 12. What's the big deal? You got to get on another plane? It doesn't, like, the travel considerations are silly. It tells me that you've never been to Tallahassee. And I thought that was a good point from Bud. So if you can work out some sort of scheduling arrangement with the Big 12 with that private equity money, and I think, again, the goal here is...
That's also an access point, right? Because without a conference affiliation, and that's where ultimately I've been saying this for 4 years. I've been saying this since UCLA and USC left.
Okay.
I want to see the data in the new playoff on how you get in.
Yeah. And they're going to change that data,
doesn't that have value?
I think so.
Doesn't access have... If Florida State goes independent, let's just say perfect world.
Yes.
They get a bunch of money. They're able to go independent. And they're able to schedule everybody they want to schedule.
Mm-hmm.
How do they get in?
They basically try to work
by going unbeaten.
They work out an arrangement
and
like
the committee.
No, they work out an arrangement like Notre Dame has an arrangement.
Okay.
I mean, clearly there's precedent that you are willing to work out, because remember, Notre Dame
talk about who's out there stroking people and making sure they're happy.
Notre Dame,
the ultimate puppet masters. Right. I mean, are you kidding?
But the thing is, Notre Dame was willing to give up.
It's totally unintentional.
I know. Yeah.
No, that really was.
Here's the thing. Notre Dame is willing to not have those home games, remember?
Oh, yeah. Big sacrifice. No. The sacrifice was they would never be a top 4 seed.
That's right.
Oh, no, it's fine.
We're good.
But we can host in the early rounds.
That's right. They're hosting. My bad. I got that wrong. We're never going to buy. We're never going to get a buy, but we'll sell tickets because people are going to want to go to a playoff game. Speaking of the play, one other note too, because I put on the table the 2027 thing, and the caveat in Brett McMurphy's report about if the ACC is left standing. Yes, to your point, one of the things about adding those 3 schools was to keep a certain number of schools that are there.
Yeah,
I get all that kind of stuff. I don't know, given what we knew last year about 7 schools that were talking about what it would take to do their own thing, if that number is really going to matter, or that the ACC kind of turns into the Big 12, where it's the ACC in name only, and you're just cycling in, App State gets the call up, right? Like that kind of stuff. ECU gets the call up. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's
oh my God, if they did,
it would be the most ECU thing ever that they finally get the invite to the ACC with nobody there.
If they did promotion and regulation,
that'd be hilarious.
With the IRA Gilio conference as a feeder.
I have said for the longest time now that if the leadership at the presidential level was different, and they were so bent about this TV deal that Swofford got them into, which I think ESPN will eventually pick up because it's a good deal for ESPN to keep them through 2036. I mean, it makes sense for them to pick it up.
Even without Florida State and Clemson.
Even without Florida State and Clemson, it makes sense to do that.
Okay.
I have made the argument that the ACC, if they went about this differently, would welcome ESPN opting out of the deal so that the ACC could take their rights to market. That way, as a whole, Florida, and this would be this.
Now, this includes Florida State and Clemson.
This includes Florida State and Clemson. In a perfect world, in a different scenario, if you could go back in time, if I can go full Inception and put it in Jim Phillips's head and the president's heads, guys, the move isn't to add Cal, Stanford, and SMU. That's not the move. The move is to stand pat, get out of your television contract, and then go to market and better your deal, because even the likes of the NBA got an uptick in money. And everybody's like, oh, who watches the NBA? The NBA product. They tripled their freaking deal through multiple different networks. That's the key.
I think if you have that ability to go back in time, I feel like you go Biggie and Tupac.
Well,
you
how
go
far
East
back
Coast,
do you wanna
West
go?
Coast.
You add the Pac-12. You just take it up. You have the ACC, you have the Pac-12, and that's your alliance.
Yeah.
I can see that too.
Because the way that Oregon and Washington played out, you could have made those arguments the way that the ACC does. Look at the actual results on the field, right? Like, who's hotter than Oregon and Washington? Washington, playing for the national championship and all that other stuff.
Speaking of the playoffs, Dabo, and I'm sure he'll get this question a bunch next week at ACC Media, at ACC Kickoff. Dabo did a press conference yesterday.
Look at Dabo working on his PR, man. Happy for him.
Davos is wary of expanded college football playoff unintended consequences. This is from David Hale, the Davos Whisperer.
The Whisper.
Over at ESPN. He said that he anticipates, Dabo, the shift to an expanded playoff could lead to frequent in-season opt-outs from players or teams sitting their stars in a playoff berth, if a playoff berth is already locked up. Quote, you'll probably see some guys, if you're 4-4 and out of the playoffs, they'll probably head off to Arizona and train for the NFL. You'll see some situations like the NFL where if the Ravens are in the playoffs and they've locked it up with one more game that really means nothing, do you play Lamar Jackson in that game? Essentially what he's saying is if I'm sitting here at 11-0 and we have a rivalry game, but your biggest foe is next week in a conference championship and you win that game and you're off to the playoff with a bye, those things you're going to see play out throughout college football. Essentially, if I'm Clemson, I'm undefeated, and South Carolina's my last opponent and South Carolina's not really going anywhere, you go, we got a championship game and seeding on the line. That's what we're going to focus on.
Hey,
I don't think Dabo's off base here.
It just happened to Florida State. Their quarterback got hurt against a 1AA opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the dominoes that have fallen since then.
Yeah, man.
Again, I get back to access. If Florida State had just gotten in last year, well, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Housekeeping.
It's brought to you by Enovana. Check them out online at enovana.com.
Let's take a break.
Oh, wait, no, wrong
Let's
jingle.
take a cleaning break.
Hate when I play the wrong jingle. Apologies. We'll do a hockey break a little bit later on in the lightning round for sure. All right, let's get to.
Did we ever hear back from Rand about?
No, Rand. No, Rand. Wow. Speaking of people who would sit back in the meeting and not offer anything.
He's not here to defend himself.
He wouldn't disagree with me.
But I'm saying we have this segue nicely.
Yes.
Sports Podcast Festival, August 24th. That's a Saturday. That's at the Rialto.
Mm-hmm.
You can get your tickets, therialto.com.
Hats came in.
The hats are here.
Access to the hats.
Access.
I gave Adam over at Breeze Through, who's the presenting sponsor for the podcast festival at the Rialto, texted him. Hey, man, we got two hats. We got the white golf dad hat and we got the trucker hat.
Trucker.
As a corporate champion, first dibs, what would you like?
Which one?
He's like, all he said was like, they look nice. I don't think he picked one yet. Maybe he's deciding. We shall see.
Yeah, I mean, he's a busy man. So.
He is kind of busy. So check out breezethrough.com, download that app, and that way you can save money on gas. And again, all that money you save on gas, you can use to buy tickets for the podcast festival where you will have access to the hats.
No, so I had asked Rand if he wanted to come do some sort of live acapella of the news.
Yeah, like an 8 mile acapella off with Hayes.
I'm sure Hayes could get up there.
Sure, he could.
I'm sure we wouldn't have to twist his arm to come do some performing.
Asking Hayes to perform, I'm sure he's no, guys.
I'm sure we could make that work.
I'm sure we can. We also have on Thursday, we're going to be live. That's tomorrow at Two Roosters Wake Forest, the factory, for their birthday week. Two Roosters has been celebrating their birthday all week. We got International Ice Cream Day this weekend, but Sports Day at the Wake Forest Two Roosters location takes place tomorrow. We're going to be there 2 to 3. They're going to have a sports flight, a variety of different flavors. Abby.
That's a cheesecake, right?
Yes. She'll be there. I think she's bringing the wheel of cheese. That'll be exciting.
Cool.
And I don't know. We'll have stickers and whatnot to give away as well. Just to, I have a new pack of OG flag stickers.
Access to hats?
Do you want me to bring the hats?
Access to hats?
All right. I mean, we can experiment. We can experiment with the hats. I'll bring the box of hats. I'm like, yeah, y'all pick one. Jared, corporate champion.
Yes.
We'll give him a hat.
Yeah.
Why
Jared's
not?
going to hook us up for the kickoff.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And of course, we're going to be over at Crank Arm for our OG Summer Jam on July 28th. Go to crankarmbrewing.com to find out more. I know we've put it on our social media channels. I'm sure we will have access to hats at that event.
We will.
Okay. I'll also have koozies. I just put an order in for koozies and stickers too.
I need a flag sticker. Yeah.
Okay. I got some in my car. I can do that. So again, go to
I
Crank on
need
Brewing.
access to stickers.
I have plenty of stickers, man.
I don't need access.
I got.
I need the
plenty-
rest of the world to have the access to
I
that.
got plenty of stickers, man. Plenty of stickers. Don't worry about that. I'll hook you up.
No, so Summer Jam,
Mm-hmm.
1:00. Come check us out. Butcher's Market's there. Our friends from Breezer will be there with their food truck.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my sister Jamie now is like, that Hawaiian Punch seltzer sounds really good. I was like, it is.
It is good.
Come check it out.
It's more than just beer.
Yeah.
Full cocktail list.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun over at Crank Arm.
Did you decide on a shirt for the fall?
No,
Looking at our Breaking Tea options there?
we haven't yet. I have not thought of one yet.
Huh.
I've been too focused on podcast festival.
Yeah, we got a lot going on.
We have a lot of events taking place. There's this newsletter that we're going to launch at some point here soon.
Ooh, that feels like housekeeping.
That you're gonna participate in.
Yep.
So yeah, man, I haven't really had time to think about it. Now that I think about it, I don't know. I got to drive to Charlotte coming up. I'll have some time to think about things.
I feel like there's a Seth Jarvis shirt, but then we'd have to cut him in.
Yeah, that's the problem with that. Yeah, I floated that idea to Breaking Tea about some sort of Jarvis Harvard, like as you pointed out, use that font. But like you said, once you involve the player name, that's when things get a little dicey. So we have to be careful about that.
Farewell to something.
Maybe.
The age of the something. We already did that. We already did the Dead Conference.
Are we taking a hockey break now?
You can. Can they sign them?
Check
Please?
out Happy and Hale. There actually is a couple of Canes things that we can get to here real quick. But check out Happy and Hale. We're going to be doing a show from Happy and Hale.
Yeah. 15th. August 15th.
August 15th. So be on the lookout for
Six
that.
Forks.
In the meantime, go check out their Six Forks location, their North Hills location. Got one out in Durham. Obviously with the Canes, they'll have their cart with the hockey season coming up. And yeah, we're sitting here looking at the Carolina Hurricanes roster, and it's going to be a lot different. And they're not going to have Kuznetsov apparently. A couple varying reports.
Wait, you mean the guy that they benched in the playoffs? They're getting rid of?
I didn't see this one. I didn't see this one given how things played out in the playoffs was going to work out, right? So the real quick context here is that there was a Russian report from a Russian site that got translated and put that on social media that he was going to sign with one of the KHL teams.
Okay.
Like SK, whatever it's called. I think it was reported like a 3 or 4 year deal.
Awesome.
Some of that has been put into question. It's not official or it's not happening or blah, 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 blah. But then when you start poking around, you also get the sense that like, well, that might not be happening. We can tell you what's not going to be happening. And that's Kuznetsov is going to be in a Canes jersey next season. And while Kuznetsov made sense for the Canes last year and what they were trying to do in the playoffs, you like to call it the scratch off, right?
Mm-hmm. Skilled guy.
Had
his moments.
He did have his moments.
I could live with him.
He had some
Rod
good moments, but he also had those moments that Rod couldn't live with, as we saw play out. And that's really tough to bring back.
Mike Singletary voice. Not going to do it.
Right. Okay. So there's that. There's the sitting and waiting with Seth Jarvis. But you know what? I give the Carolina Hurricanes under Tom Dundon a lot of credit. They're nothing if not consistent. This is a deal that we all say and go, yeah, this is an obvious deal. Make it happen. But when it comes to the Canes and Tom Dundon, he goes all the way down to the last minute. I mean, I think it was Jordan Martinook that he's like, I didn't even think it was going to happen.
Yeah.
No, it happened. It just tracks with the Carolina Hurricanes. And it's also looking more and more like, Marty Nate, and we talked about this with Rod Brindamore last week. Marty Nate is going to be on this team next year. The question is, what role is he going to have? Well, there's the role he wants, and then there's the role that the Canes view him.
It almost has to be an expanded role.
So yeah, all those things.
There's not a lot of choice there.
All those things are in play. So there's your quick hockey break.
Have you been to? I don't think Tyler will mind us talking about neighborhood. Have you been to his new bar yet? It's down in that Smoky Hollow by the Publix.
I have not had a chance to go to it yet. It looks good because it's a tapas place, and that's very much my thing.
No. This is the bar that he has. It's called Neighborhood.
No, I have not been to that one.
It's only things on tap.
Oh,
and the tip is included in the price.
Interesting.
So like even like the mix, there's like frozen margarita. There's like I think he said there's 12 total things, and it's all tap service.
I feel like we're gonna have to have a meeting there.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Let's have a
and the
meeting there.
price includes the tip. So he's, our guys are always all of the people we work with who are in a restaurant or a bar or anything like that, getting people to work for them is hard.
Yes.
And getting a system that works for them is their number one challenge. And I admire the way that they try to go around some of these things, including that app on Happy and Hail, where you're ordering and they're preparing your food and kind of cutting down on some of their downtime. So we need to check it out. It's right by the Publix over there.
No, I know exactly where it is.
Madre is the other place that he also owns.
I just haven't been there yet. I just haven't had a chance to get out there yet.
I didn't know if you had been to the neighborhood.
No, I hadn't. I'm gonna have to go check that out. I mentioned the newsletter. One of the things that'll happen with this newsletter and premium podcast is that Dimitri Ravanos and I are going to be doing essentially OG stands on business.
Okay,
it's basically the media business. Y'all have an interesting fascination with the media business.
Andrew Marchand was the guy who
he
really kind of made his bones with that.
Yeah, John Oran is that guy. I love John Oran.
The guy in New York who was always banging on the WWE and Vince McMahon. God, he hated him.
No,
Meltzer?
No. Phil Mushnick.
Mushnick.
Thank you. It took me a second there. Yeah, Phil Mushnick. Oh, man, I used to read the Rudy Martzke. USA Today. That was a go-to for me back in the day, man. And that's before I even thought about getting into the business.
Yes.
I was in high school, and I would, go on a road trip. You read the USA Today because it was at every hotel, right? You go on a trip. You're at the airport. You pick up a USA Today.
People don't understand.
No.
The newspaper mafia cartel wouldn't even let it be sold at your local.
No.
Pizza or a bagel place.
USA Today. I will always associate. I'm on the road or I'm on a trip, right? Yes. And USA Today even had national TV listings on the back of the paper, for heaven's sake. So I used to read Rudy Martzke and stuff like that. So Dimitri and I are going to experiment with a premium option where the people who really care about our takes on media business will be the case. But I thought you would love this though. Pat McAfee did something yesterday and continues to do things at ESPN that I can't help but think of Bill Simmons and Dan Le Batard watching this stuff go viral, where Pat McAfee is absolutely shitting on ESPN. And they're going, I got called in the principal's office for this stuff. They told me, get the hell out because you were disrupting ESPN too much. They're letting this man in prime time rip us. So there was so many things that happened in this Pat McAfee clip from yesterday. Quick context.
This is his show.
That they license.
Okay.
His show he owns, they pay him $25 million a year to license. Okay.
That's it?
I mean, substantial amount of money. Okay. I'm sorry, if ESPN came to us and hey, we're going to license for $25 million, you're going to go, that's it?
Wasn't DraftKings bricking him up too?
Yeah, he has a pattern of.
Okay.
And this is where I'm wondering where things will go with McAfee going forward. But that's another conversation
DraftKings
for another day.
We'll take $1 million a year, just so you know.
Just letting you all know. Blue Wire. So McAfee was ripping on ESPN peak summer programming. Okay. ESPN decided, that
it's time
in the year of our Lord 2024 that shit, man, we're 25 years into this century. So it's time to do a list.
Everyone loved the other one so much.
They loved Sports Century. No, they didn't. So they've done a top 100 athletes of the 21st century. They released 51 through 100.
Okay,
cool. McAfee, there's layers to this. Put him on blast.
Dan Orlovsky, who's been on ESPN all morning, having the same conversation for the past 3 shows, will join.
Catch that? Did you catch that? That to me is the buried lead. He's ripping. Yeah, Orlovsky, they got him on the car wash. He's talking about the same thing on every different show. What's the thing you've been saying about McAfee? Once you go with ESPN, they're going to want you to talk to Schefter.
Yeah,
they're going to want you to talk to these guys. You always pointed that out about Mike and Mike back in the day. Once it became just the car wash for ESPN personalities, it is what it is, right? So I thought that was funny. Then he continues.
Join us in 6 minutes, and we'll probably just cook him and ESPN as a whole for a lot of the shit they've been putting out from ESPN's people. Now, there is a top 100 list that is coming out from ESPN people, and I'll tell you what, it is the epitome of everything that everybody hates about ESPN. Mm-hmm. What they chose to do in ranking the top 100 athletes of 21st century, they only gave us 50 to 100 yesterday. What a shit show. Mm-hmm. What an absolutely terrible list. And we'll blame Dan Orlovsky for that. So he'll be joining us in about 6 minutes. We can't wait for that.
So people are reacting to this list, which I honestly have not given much time or attention to. But it did make me go, man, y'all never lived through ESPN's Sports Century project, did you? Y'all weren't here.
It was before social media, yeah.
Can you imagine if social media were around, if YouTube was what it is today in 1999, 2000, when ESPN put not just one, not just two, but 3 different horses in the top 100 athletes of the century. They put Secretariat in between Lou Gehrig. I think Secretariat came in at number 35.
Mhm.
So Lou Gehrig was 34, a horse, and then Oscar Robertson.
And Secretariat was probably low.
Maybe. Secretariat should have been in the top 5.
Tremendous machine.
What an amazing horse athlete. And why does Secretariat get the credit? What about the jockey? What? Just saying.
It's a whole team, I guess, but
what about the jockey?
what about his parents?
Somebody's right. He got sired. Good stock, right? So the controversy at the time was Michael Jordan over Babe Ruth 1-2. And people lost their shit back then.
Yeah.
Lost it over that sort of stuff.
Well,
so that's all this is.
Yeah,
That's
at
all
the risk of
this is.
relitigating this,
It's all it
they
is.
also called it the athlete, right?
Yes.
Athlete.
Yes.
So again, if you're going to give so much credit to the horse
Yeah.
for being an athlete, and by whatever your standard is, then athlete is Bo Jackson.
Okay.
And if it's not Bo Jackson, it's Jim Brown, who remember was amazing in 2 sports as well.
Totally with you on that.
So it's like, what was your standard?
Yeah.
And then you're getting into, well, again, is it iconic? Babe Ruth invented the concept of modern sports.
Yes.
And then is it social impact? Muhammad Ali surpasses both of them.
But that's the beauty of the list. Look, man, as
So,
somebody who consumes every music list that is ever put out, like Rolling Stone, every couple of years will do the top 500 albums of all time. And because they have to update them because new albums come out.
Yeah.
Right? So new athletes come out. How do you rank them? It's an impossible task. The whole point is a barroom conversation. And the fact that people get legitimately upset that Kevin Durant
What was
is
he
ranked.
mad about?
What?
What was McAfee mad about?
Oh,
though?
because it had like Connor McDavid was like 98. I think there is some pushback on the fact that because we're a little bit more enlightened now, that there are a lot more female athletes on this list. And when you put women ahead of, say, Kevin Durant, people are going to lose their shit. I mean, Kevin Durant's a prime example of this, right? I mean, here we are.
Well, you're rating Kevin Durant probably on what you think he is now and not what he's been.
You can't do that.
That's what I'm saying.
And you know where this is
You're
headed,
tainted
right?
by that.
You know who's going to be number 1
For this century?
for this century. You know who's going to be number 1.
Who should be or who is going to
Who's
be?
going to be number 1. Not who should be, but who will be number 1.
Who are they going to consider the top? I mean, it's got Tom Brady?
No.
You don't think it's going to be Tom Brady?
No. He'll be 2.
Tiger Woods,
LeBron James. That'll be it. Because
this century?
I'm telling you right now, man, it's going to be LeBron James, and they're going to juxtapose it to their sports century.
Oh, I
Michael
got
Jordan
you. So they
number
can
1.
then get the argument.
Hey, Michael Jordan was.
You're right. I wasn't looking at the big picture.
You got to think, how do you get the people going?
You're right. Good call.
Tom Brady would piss people off too.
Tom Brady,
athlete,
Tiger,
right?
I mean, 13 of his 15 majors
were in this century.
Right?
So yeah, I mean, that's your 3. That's going to be your 3.
Serena or any of the tennis players. Michael Phelps.
He'll probably show up in the top 10.
Phelps.
He'll probably show up in the top 10. See what's happening? We're
Athlete.
talking about it. See?
Yeah.
Lists work. Maybe we need to come out with an OG100. Just a thought. Just a thought on that. Other quick note, Skip Bayless apparently on his way out of Fox Sports 1, and I know that airports across the country are going to be really hard-pressed to replace him. Look, man, I knew Skip Bayless's time was up when I saw him aggregated when he said Bronny has more of a clutch gene than his dad. This is it.
Because he won the Call of Duty.
I mean, honestly, that's Bronny's biggest claim to fame out of summer league, right?
That's Jaylen Brown.
Well, we'll get to that in lightning round. And then Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are pissing people off because they're now in the media. And like Andrew Perloff, who used to be with the Dan Patrick Show, wrote a story for Athlon Sports. Where did it go? Here it is. Here's the first paragraph. Networks have to stop hiring Bill Belichick. Too late, Andrew. Someone who openly mocked the media for 2 decades as the head coach of the New England Patriots shouldn't be able to walk right in and get multiple media jobs. He never said anything useful as an NFL coach, and he's going to get paid to talk. As brilliant as Belichick is, find someone else. Tale as old as time, where somebody in sports who never gave anything to the media, had an antagonistic relationship with the media, once they're done, suddenly shows you a different personality, the real personality, and TV networks stumble over themselves to throw the bag and get them on the network. And I think there's two things here. One, for people who are mad that former athletes or coaches go straight to the head of the line for these media jobs, you have to find a different alley. You have to find a different way to connect with the audience. Okay. Straight up.
Yeah.
That's a you problem, not a Bill Belichick problem. Number two, Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, those guys get hired for different reasons. Do they bring insight? Of course they do, but they also bring advertisers. That's the other key. So when Bill Belichick is at some sort of networking event for ESPN, ABC, well, hey, come on down, spend a lot of money with us, and we'll give you behind-the-scenes access, and we'll give you an opportunity to chop it up with Bill Belichick. We'll give you an opportunity to chop it up with Nick Saban.
Get your
That's
favorite
money.
story. Yeah.
That is money, man. That is absolutely money. So
money talks, man.
That's all I would advise. I had the double whammy today when I was driving down from Polar Ice House Garner to downtown Raleigh. I saw the Hometown Realty office or the Hometown Realty billboard. There are locations across the triangle. And I'm reminded as I'm going down Timber Drive, Hammond Road, all the new construction that's popping up just outside of Raleigh and how Hometown Realty can help you with that.
MyHTR.com. Buy and sell with confidence. Know what you can afford, first of all, with the mortgage calculator. Second of all, understand with this new construction, Hometown Realty and their experts are going to get you the best deals. So you want to buy and sell with confidence, go to myhtr.com.
I also saw a home office for Whitaker and Hamer.
Josh, the home base there, not only on 70, but also, of course, Shady's. A stone's throw from the ice house there.
Yes.
Get yourself a pop.
I will be spending a lot of time at Shady's this upcoming hockey season.
Just be careful. Maybe if you wear the jacket, you can get a discount from Josh. Only when you have the jacket on.
I cannot wait to get the jacket and wear it in the studio for you.
Yeah, no,
I'll
you
keep it here at all times.
I was going to say, like Mr. Rogers, like you need to hang it up.
Is it time to talk hockey?
And then when it's time,
All
you
right.
put the jacket on.
Gotta do that.
Yeah. We'll get a jingle for that.
Check it out, wh.lawyer. Again, that's wh.lawyer. Since my cats are doing a horrendous job taking care of this mouse, it's time to contact Pest Authority. Let's go. Bugsbite.com, Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. You can check them out online. You can bundle and save. And if you got mice like I do, I'm sure they can take care of that.
Get rid of them.
So bugsbite.com. Check them out today. And I'm sure they'll do much better than my cats. And hopefully I don't... something tells me that Hayes will not take a can of wet food as payment.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, he doesn't believe in contracts. He will save you money, but yeah, you still have to pay him.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure on that. Just wanted to make sure. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, he has a wonderful newsletter that I reference on occasion, probably once a week during the basketball season for sure. Chris Gallo, it's Bless Your Chart is the Substack. Dagon Box Wars on Twitter. Chris, what's going on, man?
Good. How are y'all doing? It's my yearly July appearance. Nothing going on, so here to fill in.
No.
All
This
good.
is the Chris wrote something that I went, that's interesting. I have not seen this charted before. Let's talk to Chris about it. And it's your most recent newsletter about ACC basketball official travel. This is something that we've talked about the last couple of years in relation to inconsistencies in officiating. And then you start to realize, man, why is Roger Ayers on my television every night? He was in Raleigh last night. Now he's in somewhere in Iowa the next night. I mean, they're all over the place, right? And then you start to add it up, and these guys are working, 25, 26 different games in a 30-day span, and you start to wonder about the fatigue. So rather than the anecdotal aspect of, hey, where is this guy? You decided to put this in chart form to track this travel. What did you find?
Yeah, so these officials work often. The best ability is availability, so to speak. So one of my friends who I've met online, Cobra Stats on Twitter, he kind of reached out to me, and we were looking at referee, data. Ken Palm tracks this on his site, right? And so you can see a log of all the refs, what games that they've worked. Connor over at Cobra Stats, he was trying to look at it from a perspective of, hey, can we predict like fouls, try to find some discrepancies, maybe some tendencies. We didn't really find anything. My hunch is that you probably need more data. But the thing that smacked us in the face was like the travel, right? Ron Gruber worked 31 days to start the season consecutively. And I was like, this is that's impressive. One, two, how? And then you start digging into it more and more. Like, I think Groover and Kip Kissinger worked 113 games total, and that was the most amongst all D1 officials. In the newsletter, what I wrote about, and I remember watching this game at the time in mid-January, State, Wake Forest, Jeffrey Anderson, who is the top-ranked official in Ken Pomeroy's ratings. He worked the national championship game. Jeffrey Anderson, I think Keats got thrown out the first half of that game. Everyone remembers probably the last final minute of that game, the infamous double middles from DJ Horn, but there was also 3 technicals on like this weird play at the end. And I remember looking at that and everyone was like, oh, Jeffrey Anderson's been working 7 straight days. What I didn't know, and then when we looked at the data more, he ended up working like 7 more days after that as well, all across the country. So they travel a ton. They're independent contractors. That's my understanding, but it's just remarkable to see how often they're working. It obviously slows down as the season goes on, but like January, February, there's officials only take like 2 or 3 days off in total.
So was there any data, Chris, to increased number of fouls or fewer fouls? I would think fewer if you were more tired, right? Like, I got to get the hell out of here. I got to get a train to South Bend tonight.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have a high degree of confidence in some of the foul numbers. And my sense is that you probably need to break it down further, like what kind of fouls are being called. And I don't know. I think that part is really hard to quantify. I do remember way long ago, I think y'all know, like Freddie Kiger. I remember listening to a podcast and him explaining charting games for Dean Smith, probably in the 70s. And he was like, hey, I want to figure out these referees' tendencies. And he said they didn't really find anything. Of course, my hunch is that maybe they did. They just don't want to share that with everyone. Yeah. But I think certain officials have certain tendencies, but the dynamic that's somewhat hard to track, right, is who are you paired with? And I think that's really hard to understand because there's 3 officials who are working. What's your familiarity with them? What was their travel schedule like? What's your history with a coach, a player? I mean, Ted Valentine's worked. I'm pretty sure Ted Valentine worked the 91 Final Four, which always blows my mind. But I think he's a solid official because someone gets a bad rap. But is there context? Is there history there? Of course. So it's one of those things that's kind of hard to, provide a concrete idea if like the fouls are going up or not. All I know is these guys are working a ton and more power to them. But I'd be interested in, what the travel schedule is really like. And that's what I don't know.
I guess the question, and this is not something that you can answer, but it's worth bringing up, is that they're working more. Sure, they're independent contractors, more money, cool. But I almost feel like, would they be working as much as they were working if there wasn't a lack of officials coming up? Because you have to, people are like, Teddy, that guy's been working 1991 Final Four, as you mentioned, right? Yeah. Roger Ayers, I'm pretty sure my kids are younger than he's been working, right? Yeah. And you think to yourself, well, who are the new guys? Where are they coming up? At some point, Brian Kersey can only shuffle up and down the court at the pace that he's shuffling right now.
No, Jamie Lucky.
I'm sorry, I'm getting my officials wrong. Apologies to Brian Kersey, who's actually the head of officiating now for the ACC. Jamie Lucky's the one who's rocking stretchy pants. And look, as somebody who wears stretchy pants on a consistent basis, it is interesting that he's wearing the pants that are different than the other pants with the drawstring. I'm just saying, at some point, you're going to have to retire, but you ask the question, who's replacing him? Right. I think that's kind of the issue here too.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I mean, it's one of those things too, where there's 360 odd teams, right? There's a ton of games. And I mean, Basketball Reference tracks this for the NBA. Obviously, NBA, a lot fewer teams. You can see the amount of games that they work. You can see the statistics associated with those games. What I'm getting at here is like the gambling aspect is definitely part of this. Knowing that Scott Foster is working a game 6 and has a history in the NBA Finals with like a player is important to know. I'm not saying that you should place a bet one way or the other on that, but you make a good point. Like the NBA has a structure where I believe officials can work themselves up, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know how organized they are at the collegiate level. And my understanding is like long ago, it was like a conference had their own set of officials. And I don't believe that's the case anymore. I know last year, Matt Norlander wrote in his newsletter, the court report, about like what they get paid. And I believe it was like $3,700 a game. That's like gross, right? So taxes are going to come out, but you have to pay for travel. And then on top of that, like if you work an NCAA game, NCAA will cover that as well. But it is quite interesting that if you're available and you can get to the game, you can work it. There's that trust there. But I got to believe you're right in that there's not a lot of folks who are interested in being an official these days.
Why would you?
Yeah, with how you're treated. And also it's just, I don't know, it's that lifestyle. If you can do it, great, but it's pretty demanding as well.
Can I put you in charge of like Duke stats, pre-K, post-K?
I mean,
not argue with Kersey about.
I mean, as someone who leans light blue in that shade, I would love to do it as well.
Right.
But yeah, it is quite interesting when you start to break some of that down with coaches.
No, Mark Packer had as he would call it, the infamous cheat sheet or the ref sheet or whatever it was. Yeah. And he'd keep a tally of who was getting called what versus Duke and versus Carolina versus everybody else. That's really going down the ACC anon rabbit hole, if you will. You can really find you go some dark places if you let yourself. Just saying. Speaking of dark places, Chris.
Carolina football.
In messaging you were talking about coming up with another newsletter here. Again, I highly recommend people subscribe to it. You have fascinating nuggets, especially during the basketball season. Shout out to the Wob Stick. Joe and I talked about this earlier in the week with DraftKings having Carolina's over under set at 7.5. And I feel like that's the most iconic number for Carolina football. Yep. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the coach is. It doesn't matter who the players are. Carolina's looking at a season where they're looking at 7 or 8 wins. And this year, even without a Sam Howell or a Drake May, they're looking like they could have 7 or 8 wins. When you're looking back at Carolina football over the years, does that track? Is that one of those anecdotal, it just feels right, or is that right?
No, I think that definitely feels right. I also think it is right. I mean, I had a joke with old friends, like, no matter how good they are, they're going to fall out of bed and be 8-4. Like, they could be bad and they'll somehow be 8-4. They could be good and they'll still end up 8-4 somehow. And 8-4, as both of you very well know, it can feel a lot different.
Yes.
And I think over the past few seasons for them, it's felt different. So their win total this year, like y'all have talked about this, I think earlier in the week, but the schedule is just, it leaves a lot to be desired in terms of like marquee matchups. And I would probably say like the most exciting game from an opponent standpoint is the one at the very end of the year, which has not gone so well for them lately. So it's going to be an interesting year. 7.5 is an interesting number. I don't have a high degree of confidence though, but if you told me they finished 8-4, I would say, well, did they win the last game of the season? Because that would actually color my opinion of how successful the season was.
Look, I mean, I mentioned it earlier in the week. How we talk about Dave Doran the last 3 to 4 years completely changes depending on how the last 3 to 4 years goes against North Carolina. The same can be said about UNC. Same goes with the conversations around the defense. I'm sure you've crunched plenty of numbers related to North Carolina's defense. That's another consistency. It doesn't matter who the head coach is. Doesn't matter the defensive coordinator. There's this bend, don't break kind of attitude that people expect out of UNC. And Max tried to dress it up about how they got stronger at the end of the season. I think not last year, but the year before. And the big curiosity is going to be whether or not Jeff Collins, the old Georgia Tech coach, who's known as a defensive mastermind, can bring that talent up to the production that we expect on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the most frustrating thing is there's talent there. They've always had talent. I mean, you can look at who they've had drafted, but the talent has always translated into results, and that's what's hard to reconcile at times. And with the defense, I mean, it's the Georgia Tech game last year, just watching that happen is just mind-numbing. The State game, even, like, I think State scored on the first 8 drives. Like, that's, I mean, you can try harder and that can't happen. Like, it's just, it doesn't quite make sense. So yeah, the defense is where it's at. I think they'll have to try to turn the corner there, but what is even good? Is good just like, 60th in the country in defense, or like, what is it? What's progress? And so that part will be interesting. I'm glad that they are going to try something different because you don't want to keep trying the same things over and over. But I think the league this year too is going to be really interesting. I mean, greatness is becoming greater, as both of you well know with the ACC. But looking at all the different schedules and whatnot, I was looking at SMU's schedule and the way they close. Whew, it is fortunate for them to enter the league, and I think they like have to play Florida State and Louisville early. But the way they close, it's like, okay, half these teams are not that great. So good for them.
About Louisville last year, and people were like, "Well, yeah, but they still got to do it." And it's like,
yeah,
hey man, the schedule is going to mean more than anything than it's ever has, and not only in the ACC but the Big Ten. That's the one I'm kind of.
Well, the SEC too. The SEC was talking about 8 different tie breaks that they have to go through.
I feel like they don't have as much disparate travel. Right. I think I want to see how that plays out. We've been joking about State losing at Cal since the game was announced.
Oh, yeah.
Cal and Stanford are going to pop somebody at 11 p.m. our time. And it's going to be like, well, what the hell happened? And I think we've alerted enough people about SMU, like, buyer beware there, man.
Have a look out. They're motivated.
Free leech beware, because you just invited a monster to the party.
Yeah, having 17 teams in the league, so what? You play 8, and then there's 8 teams you don't play. So there's a lot of ways that can go, and it can be lucky and not in terms of rest advantages too. So it'll be interesting to see how.
I was going to say the ACC is now on that cross-divisional situation that we see in the NFL. Like, oh, wait a minute, that East Coast team's going out west? Oh, yeah.
Last week, what'd they have to do?
What'd they do? Oh, okay, yeah.
Early start, late
and
start.
There's weird, you played Thursday? I don't know about that. We'll see. Chris, we appreciate the time, man. I love your newsletter. You know that. And we'll talk to you in July of 2025.
Let's do it again.
On the book. I got you guaranteed for July 25. Let's go.
Let's do it. All right, man. Thanks, y'all. See ya.
Chris Gallo. I'm glad he has a nice sense of humor about that. One of our listeners is at Royal Troon at the moment. Apparently he's going to bring us back a British Open flag.
Nice.
We've been talking about rearranging things. I'm guessing that would be on your side.
Depends on who wins.
But that's a good point. He messaged me and he says, just want to let you know, as I'm getting ready to go to the golf course, it is a Stay Ready All-Stars affair right now.
Oh,
Stay Ready All-Stars affair. Yeah. Everybody's dressed. You're kind of dressed today.
I am. I got a tea time at 10 after 11 today.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well,
I got my roll back on.
Wait, 10 after 11. I thought it was at 1 o'clock. Oh,
today.
Geez. Okay. We'll really do a lightning round then. My bad. So use the promo code OG. Yeah. For some reason, I thought you were going at 1 o'clock. My bad. OG20. Use that promo code. You can be a Stay Ready All-Star the rest of the summer. I got my shorts on right now.
I got my pig picking. I think you can see the flag.
You can see the flag on the back. I do like that. I do like that look. I love the back of that polo. I really, really do. So again, use that promo code OG20. Speaking of that pig, they really do it right at Longleaf. Check them out, longleafswine.com. Again, that's longleafswine.com. You can order online, pick it up, take it home. Better yet, look, I know it's hot outside right now. They do have indoor seating at Longleaf Swine. But the patio's covered. They got the fans going, everything else, and you can cool yourself down with some beer.
Shout out to Adam over at Longleaf Swine. Texted me the other day. I'm like, hey man, just so you know, Elliot Avon's coming over there with a recruit. And he was like, okay, cool, I'll be here. And so Elliot's like, yeah, I mean, the recruit wanted the best barbecue. And I said, well, then good. You went to the right place. And then he was like, I came by on Tuesday and you weren't open.
Whoopsies.
And Adam's like, do people not know how to use Google? And
not even.
Not Elliot.
Not
like,
even.
Come on, man.
Why
do you think he texted me to see if you were open?
And that's saying something. That Avon texted you to figure something.
He called me.
Okay, well, that's all. Even more old. That's even more old school. That he called you.
Because I think he went on a Tuesday and he was like, they're not open. So then he was like making sure before he left campus, like, wait a second, I'm going to call Joe to make sure it's Wednesday through Sunday.
Sometimes
our friends at Longleaf Swine.
Sometimes I wonder if we should take Avon to Nature's Relief just to chill him out a little bit.
A little just
because he's boom, 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 boom all over the place, man.
Eyes drunk.
Say no. Let's take it down a little bit. Check out Nature's Relief Hempstore.com, RELEAF.com, hempstore.com. You got questions about what you're looking to do? Anxiety, better sleep, deeper sleep, You're just trying to chill out on the weekend. They have all sorts of options for you. They can answer those questions. So check out Nature's Relief Hemp Store today.
Summer hours, Western Boulevard, 10 a.m., 10 p.m. That's Thursday through Saturday. Go over there and check them out. Or come over to the G. Just don't take my sodas.
Fair enough.
Lightning round.
Get to it. Speaking of golf.
Nothing but respect to Tiger Woods, dude. So apparently Colin Montgomery, Monty, if you're an old Jim Rome show listener, Colin Montgomery was had a conversation. He was talking about Tiger Woods and retirement. Like, hey, man, we all get to a point where we know we can't compete, so we might as well retire. And this was brought up to Tiger Woods at the U.S. Open, and I thought Tiger Woods' response was fantastic.
Tiger, just to almost follow up on that, you've given so much to this game, you've given so much to this championship. But, there was comments, last week from Colin Montgomery who said, why is he here? He should retire. There's no point to this. Do you feel that's a bit hurtful and you've earned the right to make the decision when you decide?
Well, as a past champion, I'm exempt till I'm 60. Colin's not. He's not a past champion, so he's not exempt. So he doesn't get the opportunity to make that decision. I do.
That's what I mean. You've earned that. You've deserved it.
So when I get to be at his age, I can still make that decision when he doesn't.
Next question.
Give me that accent for the rest of time. Put me to sleep. Unbelievable.
The Scottish accent?
That was, I don't know if it was Scottish.
I think that's a
Scottish
accent.
That was amazing.
Yeah. That was good. Also the I do. He doesn't. I do. Good for Tiger, man. When Tiger, if you ever wanted the glimpses of just how competitive he is or was and why people were intimidated, it's responses like that. That's why. I love that from Tiger Woods. Speaking, now this was something that was not said into the mic. It was a hot mic situation. This was making the rounds all day yesterday and today, and people are reacting to it in a really strange way.
Are you about to play RFK Jr.? I'm very confused. I have no idea where you're going.
When I pulled up Twitter, I saw Matt Walsh was trending. And I'm like, well, I don't want to know why Matt Walsh was trending.
Oh, Jaylen Brown.
So Jaylen Brown's checking out summer league games. I think we got Angel Reese in the house here too. So here's Jaylen Brown. I don't think Bronny's a pro. Look at his head. There he goes. Because of his name, he's going to be with the Lakers, blah, 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 blah. Now, context here is that Bronny's been struggling through Summer League. As I joked earlier, the most notable thing from Bronny James in Summer League is that he won the Call of Duty championship. Cool. Not knocking it. I think he won like 10 grand for it. But he's also missing a bunch of threes. I think he's currently 0 of 15 from beyond the arc. So the best case scenario coming out of the draft when the Lakers picked him up was, he could be a 3-and-D guy. Based on what? He wasn't exactly doing that at Southern Cal. And clearly he's not showing you that now. And he's a little bit undersized if we're worried about the defensive side of the ball, right? And I think people are I don't see where the problem is with Jaylen Brown saying the obvious thing here. He's not a pro. The reason why he got picked up by the Lakers when he got picked up was because of his dad. And if they end up playing together, it will be a cool moment. I'm not dismissing that, but let's call it for what it is. LeBron James made sure that his kid, because he's got that kind of power, was drafted by the franchise he's playing for. Good on them. But the people falling over themselves to try to tell you that, no, you don't get it. Like, Bronny James has some skill. He's got this upside and things like that. If LeBron James wasn't his dad, would he have been picked up by the Lakers at 55? Would he have been picked up in the second round at all?
No.
Would he have gone back to college?
Potentially. It depends on what he wanted to do.
So that's the thing I think is a more interesting conversation.
He had a serious heart issue. So,
there's that too, which again gets back to what I was about to ask. What would have made more sense for Bronny James? Another year of college or going to the G League? Transferring from Southern Cal somewhere else for a little bit higher profile? He's lost on the West Coast, man. Ain't nobody watching Southern Cal basketball. Let's say Bronny James lands somewhere in the Big 12. He lands somewhere in the ACC, for that matter, the Big East.
Interesting thought exercise. If K was still at Duke, would Bronny have played for K?
Actually, we have a thought exercise we can do today. Nick Wright brought this up on Fox Sports 1. If the Hurley dynamic was, LeBron James and Dan Hurley, they've got this connection and whatnot. why wouldn't Dan Hurley bring on Bronny James to UConn to play higher stakes basketball, more high profile basketball, right? Because the Big East, we know the Big East is competitive, right? So why wouldn't you do that? But again, it gets back to the central point. LeBron James wants to play with his kid at some point this year. It's going to happen. Cool. Moving on.
Next item in the lightning round.
Speaking of Coach K, are you familiar with Cameron and Mace and their podcast?
Not their podcast, but I mean, hey ma, what's up?
We gonna get it on tonight. Well, apparently Cameron wants to get it on with Coach K, but not in that kind of way. He wants to take Coach K to task. So apparently they're filming their podcast. Cameron and Mace Is What It Is podcast. They're filming it in Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Did Mace unfind the Lord, or is he still with the Lord? I think he's still with the Lord.
He's now just doing the podcast with Cameron
in Vegas.
They were there for Summer League.
Oh, okay.
And Coach K is there. Okay, cool. Apparently, while they were recording the podcast, Coach K walked by. Cameron's like, holy crap, it's Coach K. So he basically pulled a U. He got distracted because he wanted to flag somebody down.
Yeah.
Got off the set, tried to no, I'm going to get Coach K on. Coach K brushes him off.
Okay.
Cameron comes back to the set and does this.
Yeah, give me a solo. Coach K got mad banks in North Carolina. Zion to Grant Hill to everybody on Crystal Lake. He been putting it through his banks, so it looks legitimate. Everybody left. I sign off for us, and he been paying niggas for years before the NIL. I don't know. I know about you, Coach. If we got to do the Is What It Is investigation on you, I'll send niggas down to Chapel Hill. That's not because I know Duke is in another part, but I know what part you're at.
I look forward to the Cameron investigation of funneling money to Zion and others because he's got banks in North Carolina. Slush funds for recruits, according to Cameron. I thought you held a grudge. Wow. One last lightning round.
Last one. Speaking of Vegas and basketball and Olympic teams and everything else.
Guess Diana Taurasi's hurt or she's ailing a little bit.
Okay.
You know what that means, Joe?
Oh, there would be a spot on the Olympic team.
Caitlin Clark's been turning it around, right?
Yeah.
I think she's averaging
Much better.
17 and 10 or something like that now. The schedule's eased up a little bit. Here's the thing. If you're Caitlin Clark, what would be better for you? Playing for the Olympic squad this year or utilizing the time off?
She could probably use some time off, but it's not like you're going to an undesirable location for the Olympics. I could probably spend 2 weeks in Paris. And
what about Caitlin Clark gives you the idea that she would be in Paris doing other than playing basketball? Because that's the thing. I think that's the one thing that I've found interesting about Caitlin Clark is that people have tried to project something to her that she is not.
Sure. But
she cares about ball. That's it.
Sure.
She's like Kevin Durant in that way.
I do think, though, even the NBA players, when they do, I know it doesn't happen often, but when those NBA players and other famous athletes get a chance just to be in the Olympic Village, it's a completely different experience.
I'm with you on that. But it gets back to, I was thinking about something you had said about Caitlin Clark when all this was going on earlier and people were losing their minds and she was struggling through it. I think we forget that unlike men's college basketball, women's college basketball is you play the entire season, you go through the NCAA tournament, you get drafted, and then you're playing in a very quick turnaround time.
Yeah.
And on top of that, their schedule was very front loaded on a bad team against good teams. Shockingly, she struggled. But now that she's gotten a little bit more comfortable with the game, the schedule is eased up, she's been playing better. And she'll probably be the rookie of the year, which a lot of the Angel Reese defenders will lose their minds because of her double-double streak. But I know you rolled your eyes at that Angel Reese double-double streak when I referenced it a while back. Yeah. You were like,
It's not just Angel Reese, though. Like, Hansborough and some other Armando Baycott.
Oh, sure.
It's like, guys, Wilt Chamberlain was like in the NBA, like getting 20 rebounds and like 50 points. Like that's a double-double.
Yeah.
Like you getting 11 points and 10 rebounds. Cool. You're the tallest person on the court. Rebound. Come on.
Fair enough.
Please.
That is your lightning round.
Yes, it was crazy fast because you have a golf tee time that I was
fastest
completely
lightning round ever
because I was completely wrong on the time. You know what's fast? going to the butcher's market and going to the case and getting your signature steak tips. That's fast. It's ready to go. Ask, boom, I'd like 2 pounds of that. Boom, in the bag, out you go. Fast, you don't have time for a meal. They have a frozen section with pre-made meals that you just got to pop in the oven.
Sandwiches.
No prep. Put it in. $4.50 an hour. Done. And it's ready to go.
Sandwiches.
Hey, the French tip changed a life.
It did.
So, I mean,
changed the vacation at least. So that's
no, I'm going to say it changed a life.
A life.
I think it changed a life.
Yeah.
So check out the Butcher's Market today, thebutchersmarkets.com. Also, big thanks to Matt Davis, State Farm, InsureGarner.com, the OGinsurance.com, and the official OG sponsor of the Big 12. Give him a call at 919-779-8277.
I think you mean the Matt Davis 12.
The Matt Davis 12. Yes, they will be spending a lot of time talking about the Matt Davis 12 and potentially, who knows, Florida State going to them. You never know. So again, check them out, 919-779-8277. You call, somebody here is local, they will pick up, and they're going to help you save money on insurance, your home and auto. So get it today. So we'll get out of here on some Hey Joe questions before Joe's got to get to his tea time. Why do I have the wrong background? Crankarmbrewing.com. They bring you Hey Joe. We appreciate them. A lot of the Hey Joe is related to your conversation with Alec Makaravich yesterday on the summer session.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I put out the social media clip related to his exit, his transfer from ECU to eventually NC State, and obviously the rest is history. A lot of people are asking the question, hey, the draft just happened. Did Makaravich get drafted? Because remember, he didn't get drafted, used his extra year of eligibility. Right. He ends up at NC State. They get to the College World Series. What is the latest on Makaravich?
I talked to AMAC this morning.
Okay.
He ended up signing a deal with the Chicago White Sox.
Nice.
He's headed out to Phoenix by the end of the week to start on his professional career. Congratulations to him. I know he's ready. As someone who I was texting with yesterday, I'm like, okay, what happened with my guy? They're like, he's old. He's old.
What do you mean?
He's 24. Baseball, while
why he didn't get drafted,
right? Like
yes.
Baseball is like, hey, we either want you to be like Skeens, where you're like 24 and like right now, or I want you to be the 18, 19. I want you to be young, so I can feel like I can mold you and
get you.
I'm the one who fixed you, saved you.
Yes.
Obviously, he already fixed a lot last year at State, so congrats to him and the White Sox. He's pumped. He's ready, and I enjoyed the conversation. It's funny. I can say this. Like, he came in here and I was like, I'm like, I don't know if I have anything to drink because Leanne wasn't here.
Oh, no. Okay.
And he goes, I'll have a beer. I go, okay.
I mean, he's 24.
Yeah. So we had a beer.
Had a beer.
We had a beer. We had a good conversation.
Good.
I felt it was important to clear some things up. Like some people being like, oh, I think he had mentioned to me like, oh yeah, someone was like, oh, well, I can't believe you left after they bought you a truck at ECU. And he was like, nobody bought me a truck. He's like, they didn't buy me a truck at NC State either. He's like, I still drive the same car. Like, was Cliff mad because you were going to NC State? He's like, no, I didn't even know I was
right.
Going to
That's the part.
Like, people were confused about that too. Of course, NIL's part of the situation because State lost one of their players, needed somebody, and it worked out the way that it did. But it was just kind of good to go over some of those things, like I said, in real time, so that we're not 10 years down the road and being like, oh man, he did this to ECU, he did that to ECU. I think honestly, it was just like he said, he was ready to try something else. He did. It worked out for him, and he holds no ill will towards ECU in the time that he had there. Like I've tried to point out, he was on one of their best teams of all time. Like you see his teammates in the majors right now. The team that lost to Vanderbilt in Nashville, honestly, is probably the best in school history. He was their starting third baseman.
One other thing about ECU before we say goodbye, a lot of people have been talking about college football 25.
Yeah.
When we go to ACC kickoff, I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to be not guilty of it, but I will be playing this game. It's going to be asking players, hey, have you seen your ranking in college football 25? Okay. So the quarterback for ECU who just got there has gone viral because he's rated as a 12. A 12.
Come on, man.
He hasn't played a single game. They're rating the guy as a 12.
Give him a courtesy 50 or something.
I think it was my friends over at Pirate Radio caught up with him,
the
ECU quarterback, to talk about like, hey, what do you think about this kind of stuff, right? So that's going to be that is the go-to question that will happen at these various media events, whether it's now that the game is out, I'm sure that SEC players are going to get it. I know for a fact that ACC players are going to get it all throughout next week.
Yeah,
and that'll
Justin
be-
Jolly from NC State, their transfer from
Yeah.
UConn, has already put out the challenge. Like, here's my handle. Come play me.
Right. So I think
you
that's,
ain't beating me.
so there's the perspective of the players and what they think about that. And of course, I'm curious what the coaches think, because we're not that far removed when Fortnite was taking over the world. And I remember asking Dave Dorn one time, you and I weren't working together at that point, but I asked him about Fortnite, and I had candid Dave for like a brief moment, just a brief moment in front of the mic where he's like, gotta get my kid off that damn game. So I'll be curious to see how the coaches react to that. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. We will see y'all Thursday. 2 Roosters, the Factory in Wake Forest.